So we have two nodes that modify, so this is under modify, that we can use to transform data. So one is impute. We use impute node to impute values for missing values. If you have missing values, replace the missing value with a legitimate value. Then we have replacement. Let's look at replacement first. What replacement will do is replacement will replace an existing value, okay, with a new one. So we have two editors here, replacement editor for interval variables, and then we have replacement editor for class variables. Class variables will be the nominal and ordinal variables. So click replacement editor for interval variables. Okay, so now, okay, if you define a default method, okay, and you leave it at the default method, then the variables will be converted to new values using the default method. Okay. Now we can change the default method to none. Okay. So now we have to specify what method we want to use for selected variables. So for example, if you take age, okay, remember age has 481, which is the wrong value, right? And we want to change that. So we're going to use the user specified method. Okay. User specified method. Now the lower replacement limit will be 0 and the upper replacement limit is 100. So that's your valid, and replacement method is manual. So this is your valid range. So the replacement lower limit and replacement upper limit gives you the range for values that will not be replaced. Okay, they'll be left alone. If a value is in that range, that value will be left alone. Okay, if it is outside that value, then the lower replacement value, okay, right now is dot, so which means what? It's a missing value. And upper replacement value, again you can specify what it is. Okay. And we know here that there is only one value which is above, which is 418. Right? And if you know what that value is, then we can specify that here, 41.8 or something like that. Or if you're not sure, then we can just leave it as it is. So, which means it will be replaced with a missing value. A dot in SAS is missing value. Okay. And let's do one more, which is user specified for. Let's start. Well, let's do PT ratio. We know that PT ratio has, okay, let's say lower limit is 1. Okay. And let's make that user specified. The upper limit was 20 or something, so let's just be on the safe side. Let's make it 50, and the replacement method will be missing. So anything below or above will be missing. Okay? And again, LSAT, there was a 581 that we needed to change. So LSAT, let's do that too. User specified replacement is 0 to 100. Okay, 0 to 100 will be left alone. Otherwise, it will be 5.81. Okay. So the 581 will become 5.81 then, just to give you a feel for what it is. Okay, now click OK. Now that's replacement editor for interval variable, and replacement editor for class variable. Okay, so now again, so we have class cat medv 0 or 1 or unknown. So that's your missing value. Okay, so replacement value for unknown is default, and that would be missing. And the same here. Okay, so this seems to be okay. Now, chas missing, we could code it as 0 if you want. Suppose if missing means it's not adjacent to Charles River. Suppose if you knew that, okay, just as a, just for an example, I'm saying, all right. So if we knew that if chas is missing, it's actually not adjacent, then we can put 0. So this is how you change it. Okay. Now click OK, and now you run. So the replacement node will now apply the replacements that we have coded to the data. Yeah. Now one more thing you should remember is SAS Enterprise Miner never codes the changes permanently. Okay. By that what I mean is the original data is never altered. Okay. If you make changes, it will always replace a column with a new column with the changes. So if you look at, so if you click OK, and now if you click the exported data, you will see that here is the train data, and if you do explore, okay, so now you see, the age still has 415 as the maximum. Did we not change it to missing value if it is more than 100? Well, that's here, REP age. Okay, now you see that this is a replaced age. Age has been now replaced by the new value. Same here, REP chas and REP LSAT and REP. So it keeps the original columns. Okay, it doesn't change that. Then it creates new columns, and usually the word columns will be rejected. So let's see, so once you have the replacement, if you look at the variables, you would see, well, you have to put another node here. Suppose if one more way of changing stuff is to, or recoding or replacing the values, is to impute. So here is our impute. Okay, suppose you want, after replacing, you want to impute missing values. Okay, so bring in impute. Now, once again, we have impute properties. There are several of them. So if you look at the variables, you see that the original columns are now rejected. So age is rejected. Instead, you have replaced age as the input here. So we didn't set the age to rejected. SAS did. Here, SAS, once you do the replacement, the old columns are set to rejected, and the transformed ones are kept as input. So, all right. So now, how do you, suppose you want to change class values here. This is where you set how to impute, and there are lots of options available. Okay, Okay, so default input method. This is the method that will be used to replace missing values. And there are many options. Count is the mode. What count would do is, if a class variable is there and there are 4 different classes, which class is the most frequently occurring class in that column? And that value is what will be used as the imputed value or default constant value. You can say, okay, I'm not going to use that, I'm going to use a default constant value. Okay. Or you can use, there are several other options. Okay, they are more involved. Okay, so there is some information available about that. You can look at that. So let's leave it as count. Okay, default target method. Again, what do you do for the target? If the target column is missing, so usually if the target column is missing, you're not going to change that. You're not going to impute values for the target. If the target is missing, you just throw that out. Okay, so we'll leave it as none. Okay, if you want to normalize values, you can do that. Now for interval variables, again, there are a bunch of options. One is mean. We talked about this last time. So you take the column, find the average, and use the mean as your imputed value, okay, which actually would tend to decrease the variability. So, or you can use the maximum, minimum, median, mid-range, and so on. And then there is, I think the tree method is, okay, each of these methods is described in more detail elsewhere. Okay, and there is tree method. I mean, there are a bunch of methods available. Okay, tree imputation. There are other parameters that you can set. Okay. And then here, hide original variables. Once you do the imputation, the original values will be hidden. Okay. And here is the indicator variable. Okay, source is imputed variables and the role will be set to reject. Okay. So here we can select what kind of indicator variable we want. So a single indicator variable would be, if there is a missing value, then you will have only one single, for that observation, only one single indicator variable that says that some value for that record was imputed. Okay. If you have take 10 different columns, any one or more of those columns was imputed, then that will be indicated by a single variable. A unique would be, for each column you have, there will be an indicator variable which will be set to 1 if that column was imputed. Okay. Remember, we talked about this last time. The very fact that imputation was done could have predictive value, and that's the reason for that. Okay. So now if you run the impute node, then you will do the imputations that you have coded. And once again, once imputed, the original variables will be set to reject, and the imputed columns would be set to input. So here, these are the imputations that were done. Okay, it gives you the summary of the results.